All right. We are here with Jorge Urrea, a.k.a. Pushing Fruits LA. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me, carnal. It's a pleasure. It's been a while.
Likewise. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a minute. So what you been up to since then, since the last time we spoke?
Oh, man. Last time we spoke, I just been grinding, my boy. I just been doing a lot of community stuff, doing a lot of homeless advocacy work, giving back to them, feeding them. I've been taking off of my catering business, Pushing Fruit to LA. I went from catering fruit and selling fruit on the streets to now I do full on party catering. Pretty soon I'm gonna get into production catering, crafty, all that stuff. Been doing that. Just finished filming a documentary of my life. They filmed for like 3 days. That's gonna be a good one. They called me the show is called Food Heroes. So I'm considered a food hero now, which is pretty cool.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Man, and just staying busy, dog. Just staying busy, staying positive. I've had more free time on my hands recently than I'm used to. So now it's just a matter of funneling that free time to get things done, you know.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from the city of El Monte, in the San Gabriel Valley. I'm from the friendly city of El Monte, they call it. Yeah,
The friendly city.
The friendly city.
It wasn't always friendly when you were growing up.
Nah, man. In the 90s, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad in the 90s while I was going to Almani High School. I went to Almani High School. I went to the continuation called the Valley Lindo University, we called it. Yeah, you're right, man. Those late 90s, those mid-late 90s were some pretty treacherous days back then. And I'm just lucky and honored to be able to share my story now. It's been a long time coming.
What was your upbringing like?
My upbringing was, it was all right. My mom raised me. She was a single mom. She had a couple jobs, like at any given moment. She had like 2-3 jobs, average. She raised me and my big sister. My big sister is 4 years older than me. We were just, my sister was more on the academic side, so she was studying a lot, and I was the one running amok. I was the one coming home late, staying out late, not coming home after school, all that stuff. At the age of 10, it kind of like my whole story pretty much started at the age of 10, when I was going through some crazy depression. My mom was divorcing my stepdad, which his name was Skip, which is my little brother's father. He was the man to me, you know. My dad was always busted, or he was a career tecato, so he was always kind of looking out for himself, you know. But this guy Skip, he was the one that put me into like T-ball, coached me, showed me like work ethic, showed me respect, showed me all those fatherly lessons that a boy needs to know, you know. And so when I found out they were getting divorced, like it was kind of, to me, it was like my world was crumbling. So the easiest thing for me was just to say I was going to kill myself. And I said it more times than not, you know. So I think now as a parent, I see how that could weigh on a parent, having your kid say that, you know. So because I would say it regularly, my mom, she recommended we go see a counselor. So at the age of 10 years old, we went to go see a counselor at a facility it's called Charter Oak Hospital. It's a behavioral mental health facility. And as we were at the counseling session, one of the things that they showed me was the buffet style cafeteria, because I was a gordo, you know. And so I went, they showed me to where the food was. I got my grub on. And while I was grubbing, I realized that my mom wasn't there, which was kind of weird to me. So I found I kind of like found my way back to the counselor's office, and only she was there. And I had asked her, like, where's my mom at? and she was like, she gave me the pat on the back, like, oh well, you know, she left you, you know, you got some stuff to work on, and we're gonna help you. And I flipped. I was like, I looked around like, are you kidding me? And I just went berserk. You know, tossed up her office, cleared off her desk, all that stuff. And from that day on, I was just a mad kid. Not only was I depressed, but now I was mad. You know, so I ended up being in that facility for a couple years. I think like a little bit shy of 2 years. I was able to see my mom like maybe 6 months after I was an inpatient there. And then towards the end, I ended up being a mentor to the new kids. I ended up kind of showing them the ropes and helping on their being better, you know. And so like at the age of almost 13, I came home. And shortly after that, you know, same issues were happening at the pad. You know, my mom, she's always suffered with dependency issues. She was an alcoholic, and I'm sure she took a couple pills here and there, and Prozac and all that stuff, you know, and you know, just that spiral life started again. It was all fun and games for a couple months after I came home, but after that dies down, kind of like a relationship, when you break up and you get back together, you know, you think everything's fine and dandy until the same cycle starts happening again. So sure enough, a couple months later, my mom, you know, started having her depression episodes and her, you know, alcoholic rants and all that stuff. And here I was like not wanting to live again, you know, like I just hated it. I just hated living. So I was always too scared to kill myself, though. I always felt like my luck was so bad that I would never die, that maybe I would just end up being a laughingstock amongst those that knew me, you know? So with that being said, I funneled my depression and my sad feelings into anger and just conflicting injury upon people. That was my thing. I never liked to drink. I never liked to smoke. I never did none of that stuff, but I like to hurt people. So I was a bad kid, you know what I mean? I just wanted to hurt everybody because I was the one hurting myself.
At what point did you get into the gang life?
In high school, you know, probably like the beginning of high school, I really wanted to play sports. Skip had kind of put that in my mind that sports was very important, and you know, get rewarded and stuff for being good at sports. So in the beginning of high school, I worked out with the wrestling team, and I was on the swim team in the 8th grade. I tried water polo, but I wanted to do football instead. But all those games that I had and all those sports that I played, like, I think the big impact that it made for me to say I'm done with all that was that my mom was never at my games. You know, like all my homies, their whole families were cheering for them at games or at wrestling meets or swim meets or whatever, you know. But me, it was always like I would maybe got a ride with the coach, or my mom was at work, you know what I mean? So I never really felt the reward from doing all that. And so I just finally ended up messing up with my grades, and which eliminated me from being able to be in sports. And then that's when the fun and games started, like 11th grade, 10th grade, you know, taking shortcuts home, ending up at the homie's house, and the homie has a brother, and the brother's from the barrio, or, you know, or whatever. And then that ended up being a little bit more fun to me, because it was like, damn, oh, what? I'm backing up the neighborhood and I could fuck fools up? Shit, let's do it. And you know, that ended up evolving into being a gang member from the city of El Monte, and that came with a lot of pride and having to hold myself to a high standard. Therefore, I just wanted to be a gangster, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't into the political stuff about it. I was just into raising my hand and just wanting to do things, you know, get that respect. And did that, you know, did that till I was the age of 24. And the age of 24, me and my brother were on our way to Vegas, and he was also from the barrio, and we got caught slipping, you know, in the middle of the desert back in 2004. And that was probably the most gangster situation I've ever been in my life, you know, and the sad part is it didn't pay off. You know, I ended up losing a brother and my whole life changed.
What happened that day?
Shit, we were on a little getaway from our home lives. It was our first time going to Las Vegas. We're trying to go party it up. We didn't tell nobody we were going. We kind of left our baby's moms thinking where we were at. You know, we just went ghost. And on the way to Vegas, we stopped at the gas station in Baker. For those of you that don't know, Baker is probably like 100 miles before getting to Las Vegas. It's like the last gas station at that time before you hit civilization, which is Las Vegas. So like everybody else, Saturday evening, we stopped at the gas station to stock up on goodies and munchies and this and that, right? So I've always been the broke one, you know, because at that time I had 3 kids. I was already in the child support system, all that stuff. So didn't work. I didn't work because my mentality was like, fuck that, I'm not going to pay child support, therefore I ain't going to work. Which, you know, that was just the young and dumb part of me at the time, you know. So being that I chose not to work because I wanted to run from child support, I didn't have feria to even buy food. So the deal was that I was going to drive and my brother was going to pay for everything, you know. So we stop in Baker and we get all that stuff. And while I'm inside the store, that little pizza in the oven is looking real bomb. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to steal this shit. I'm going to slide out the side, eat it real quick, and we, you know, go on our way. So there I go with my little pizza, sliding out the side door. And as I went out the door, I didn't see his face, but someone held the door open for me. And when I was walking out, I guess they might have seen my tattoos, you know, and they were like, hey, you're from so-and-so? And I was like, hell yeah. And they were like, well, fuck so-and-so, you know? And I was like, not today. Like, what's up? Little did I know there was like 25 other fools with them. You know what I mean? And long story short, we started fighting these dudes and then shots rang out and we just got shot, you know? Omar, they called him Gato from Flores. He took a round to the chin, severed his spinal cord and exited the top of his head. And I was shot 5 times, my left forearm, my left knee, my left ankle, and twice on the left side of my stomach. And man, and that started the whole, like just that whole period of my life was just a nightmare. Not only was I just in shock that I just saw like my best homie, my best confidant, my best everything, like die in front of me. You know what I mean? I just couldn't believe that shit. One minute we were singing Chalino in the car and the next minute that fool's dead, you know? And
what happened to you?
I was there for like 3 hours until the helicopter picked me up. It was just a lot of chaos, bro. I was just laying there and I just remember I couldn't catch my breath. So it was kind of getting in the way of like the crying part and all that. Like I couldn't cry. I just remember being in a lot of pain, you know, and so as I could look over my left shoulder and I could see his body laying there. And I kept telling people like to drag me towards him and they were like, nah, like just chill, you know? And then there was just a lot of people, bro, like people checking my pulse, people praying over me, señoras caressing me, putting blankets over me. Like that shit was crazy. Like just that, like at the time when the shooting happened, like I guess it happened so fast that I didn't really remember like the moments right before the shooting. I just remember fighting, you know. But after the shooting happened, like after the smoke cleared per se, it was a trip, dog. It was just like waves of people. The first thing that happened is I grabbed my cell phone and I called my mom because when we left the pad, my mom was having a little gathering at the pad, and And that was when she told me, like, she's like, all right, mijo, be careful. Remember, you're not always the big bad one and this and that, right? And so I called her and I sent her, I called her, and her husband at the time answered the phone, and I was like, hey, Joey, I'm shot. Like, we're on our way to Vegas. Omar's dead, and I got shot a few times. I don't know what's going to happen. And he was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? And I'm like, I'm real serious.
This is while you're laying on the ground.
Yeah. And so he gives the phone to my mom, and my mom gets on the phone. And I'm like, and I think she could probably hear it in my voice. I was probably like breathing hard or something, maybe. And she's like, what happened, mijo? And I'm like, me and Omar got shot. And she's like, shut the fuck up. Don't play with me. And I'm like, I'm not playing, Mom. I said, we're at this gas station in the middle of the desert. I said, you might want to start heading this way. I said, because Omar's dead right here next to me, and I'm right here, you know. I think the cops are coming or some shit. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. So sure enough, like an hour and a half later, the highway patrol got there, and he kind of told everybody to leave the area, you know, because a lot of people were like holding my hand and, you know, like just doing all that stuff. And so for like a moment, it was just everybody kind of went away, and the cop came towards me and he was like, are you all right? And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm all right. I'm not really sure. And then he's like, all right, just hang tight. And then he went to Omar's body, and he kind of like not lifted him, but he rolled him over because he was on his stomach. So when he rolled him over, like that confirmed the thought that I had that he was dead, because when he rolled him over, his arm kind of stayed in position. Like he was stiff already, you know, because it had been like maybe an hour and a half. And so, so then when he rolled him over, like I was able to see like the blood, and because I wasn't leaving sight, you know, and I was just watching. And then then the cop comes to me and he's like, is this your boy? And I was like, that's my brother. And he's like, and the cop, some white dude, he kind of like got serious, you know, and he put his head down and he was like, he's not with us no more. And then I just remember like turning my head the other way, and I was just like it's almost like it hurt more, you know, like my injuries hurt more now. So I was just gasping for air, and then like I think that's what kept me up, just all the action, you know, like all the fucking chaos that was going around, and him on the phone. And then the CCF firefighters got there, like the inmate firefighters. And like a couple of homies were like, hey, we're from so-and-so. Like, we're locked up with your homies. Who did this? And the first thing I could remember was like, dang, these fools are trying to get information out of me. Like, what the fuck? Who are these fools, you know? And then like a firefighter would come, and then like a homie would come. And my mind was just going crazy, bro. Like, I just didn't know what the fuck, who to talk to, I didn't know what was going on, bro. And then finally, I was probably there for like 2 hours at this point. And then I could hear the helicopter coming, and the firefighter, not the inmate firefighters, but like, I guess the real firefighters, they were like coming, they were over me and shit, and they were like cutting my shirt off and all that. And that's when they found out I was shot in the stomach. They thought I was just shot in my arm and my leg, which I think that's what was lagging everything, you know? So when they saw I was shot in the stomach, these fools got on the radio and they were like, fucking hurry up type of shit, you know? And at that point, I just felt like a real feeling of calmness. Like, I think I was dying at that point, you know? Like, I just felt like I smoked the best weed ever in my life, and I was just high, bro. Like I just felt so lazy and calm, you know? And to the point where like the firefighter started slapping me, like, wake up, don't go to sleep. And at this whole time, I could hear the chopper overhead. Doo, 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 doo. And it was like so much shit going on that everything was kind of happening in slow motion in my mind. And it was almost like too much. I just wanted to go to sleep, you know, like, fuck, stop it already. And so they put me on the gurney, And because my limbs were so badly mangled, that's what was waking me up from going to sleep, was the pain of like them moving me. Like my arm was only held together by my skin. Same thing with my ankle. So when they would put me on the gurney and move my limbs, the bones would kind of scrape together. Excruciating pain, dog. So that's what would like get me going again. Oh shit. And then I would like be relaxed again. So when they started putting me they had to put me on a gurney. From the gurney, the chopper landed at that time. And the firefighter was like, oh, there's a lot of dust. We're going to cover you with a blanket. And I was like, all right. So when they were putting me into the fucking helicopter, the blanket flew off. And I remember looking and the propeller was going slow. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought I was checking out, dog. Like, by this time, it was like 3 hours after I got shot already. And you know what I mean? Like, I think my body was like, damn, that's enough. We can't do it no more, you know?
And the loss of blood and everything.
Yeah, bro. And I just remember praying. Like, I was at the point where like there was nobody else listening to me but God. And I really believe that my dad was there with me. My grandma was there with me in spirit, like holding my hand, you know? I remember one point I was thinking and talking to my grandma, like, man, I'm sorry for getting tattoos. Because that was one thing she always said, like, no te vayas a pintar, you know, vas a parecer periódico, you know, newspaper. And I remember telling her, sorry, like, damn, abuelita, sorry. Just help me get through this. Like, I was all hands on deck. I was calling all my dead homies. Like, everybody help me through this, please, you know? And sure enough, man, I get in the helicopter and the firefighter's like in my face with all his gear on. And I just remember the feeling of leaving the ground when the helicopter took off, because I had never been in air before. And so I remember that feeling, and I kind of panicked, and he was like, you're okay, just relax. And then I felt that feeling of calmness again, and my head felt so heavy, I just wanted to go to sleep. And I asked him, I was like, am I gonna die? And I'll never forget, he with all his gear, his helmet and all that shit, he looked in my face and he was like, nobody dies in my chopper. And I was looking at him like, what the fuck? Like, what did I get myself into, man, you know? And then, we land in Las Vegas at University Medical Center of Las Vegas. And they fucking rushed me into the trauma center. The doors open. And there was just like chaos ready to happen again. Like, they went from chaos to a moment of relaxation and like peace almost to chaos again. Because now it was like all the surgeons, nuns, priests, Buddhists, Christians, all kinds of religions, bro, were there to pray for me. It was crazy. After they put me into the trauma center, mind you, at this time I had already been going to school to be a medical assistant, so I kind of knew what was going on, you know. So we go into the trauma center, and you know, all the doctors come and they're asking me the same questions and this and that. But there was a point where the religious leaders, they had to have their time with me, I guess that's like routine or mandatory, I guess. So all the doctors and nurses kind of took their hands off of me, and like all these people from different religions came towards me. And it was the nuns that they spoke Spanish, and they were talking to me in Spanish, and they were telling me like, give me your mom's phone number so we could call her, because you're going to go into surgery right now. And at that point, I was so out of it that I was just naming off numbers, 13, 9. And the lady was like, no, don't worry. Like, we're going to pray for you and you're going to be okay. And I asked her, I was like, am I going to die? And she's like, no, but you're going to need prayer because you have a long road ahead of you. And I was like, all right, run it. So they started praying. Like, they were all praying in their own thing, you know? And then after that, they got me ready for surgery, wheeled me into the OR, and I was awake the whole time. Like, I remember everything happening, like step by step. put me in the OR. They took me off of the gurney, put me on the operating gurney. They had my hand stretched out, and then they put the face mask on me. And I remember it smelling like strawberries. And the lady was like, all right, you're going to take 3 deep breaths. And I remember thinking, like, I don't want to go out. Like, I don't want to go to sleep. So I remember I took 1 breath, and I remember counting to 2, and then I don't remember nothing after that. But yeah, I ended up being in the operating table for like 15 hours. Yeah, they had to like reconstruct all my bones. I had a big old metal thing in my leg. It's called the external fixator. My intestines were all messed up. Like, it was a bad part of my life. Like that's not to mention, like, I was away from all the services. I didn't get to go to the car wash. I didn't get to go to the funeral. I didn't get to go to the viewing. I missed all that, you know? And, you know, that's always messed with me because I've always felt like I pray to God that Omar didn't think that he was on his own at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I always thought, because I always had a little guilt because he, when he passed away, he didn't see me because he was facing the other way. So I always think about that, like, man, like his final moments, I hope you don't think he was by himself, you know what I mean? But that's probably, yeah, that feeling right there is probably the most damaging that's hurt me the most. Is because we had a pact, you know, we would always tell each other, like, you got me, I got you. Like, and that's on everything, you know what I'm saying? And you don't believe that until you're in that situation. And in this situation, he didn't make it to know, you know? So
what did you learn from that whole experience, man?
Shit, you know what? I learned that shit really humbled me. You know what I'm saying? I learned that there is someone always bigger and badder, you know? And I just really, another thing I learned too is that we take life for granted, you know, and if you haven't been in a situation where you're like legit begging for your life, I don't think you would realize how much you take life for granted. You know what I'm saying? Because that's at that moment, you're as vulnerable as ever. Like, you're going into the ring with your hands at your knees. You know what I'm saying? Like, there ain't no one to save you but the man upstairs, you know? And so that's where I really started, like, I'm not going to say I started believing in God, because I always did believe in God. But I think at that moment I started really paying attention to God. Like, I started seeing, like, the way he works, you know what I mean? And yeah, here I am, man. Here I am. And, you know, I've been told after that I'm here for a purpose. And I really feel like I am. And I think until that was 17, 18 years ago. And I think now I finally see the purpose. Yeah, finally.
Yeah, violence is never the answer to anything. All it does is cause damage.
For sure. For sure, 100%. And you know what? I think that's my message to the youngsters these days regarding hope, you know, because a lot of times these kids, and like myself at the time, I was broken, you know, and I was just waiting for the opportunity to break someone else, you know, and my message to these youngsters is, you don't have to get to that point. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to get to that point of being so hopeless and broken to where you don't care what you have in front of you. And sometimes that's another human, you know? And I think by bringing hope back to these kids, and by bringing motivation to these kids, that just because, you know, maybe their parents tell them they're pieces of shit, or maybe they're failing all their classes, or maybe they ranked it in their hood and now they're like, ah, fuck, my life is over. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these kids have so many things against them that I think my purpose in life is to come and bring that hope back. You know what I'm saying? My message isn't, oh, don't be a gangster. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a gangster myself. But my message is, if you decide to go that route, then you need to be ready for some lonely times. You know what I'm saying? Because there's gonna be some trying times where you catch yourself on your own, and those are the times when your homies ain't around to save you. You know what I'm saying? You could be in some dark times on your own, and my purpose is to bring these kids to realize the fact that they ain't pieces of shit. They're just kids that maybe need a little guidance. You know?
Do you still deal with these demons today?
100%. I'm a depressed. I suffer from depression. You know what I mean? And when I say I have a lot of time on my hands and I'm not used to it, a lot of times for me personally, having downtime is dangerous for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I start getting into my head. I start thinking of when I was a kid. I start thinking of those who've died. Like, unfortunately, I end up going into like a dark place. You know what I'm saying? And what I found that helps me is by helping others, like by doing breakfast outreach for the homeless. The day after Christmas, I'm gonna go to Mexicali. It's my second annual giving back to homies that were deported. You know, like doing stuff like that is my medicine. You know what I'm saying? I don't take pills. I don't really, not that I don't believe in them, but I just don't feel like, I just know myself, you know what I mean? And I know what my medicine is, and my medicine is really helping others and me personally through cooking, through food, you know? So I found like, that's the way I cope with stuff, you know? Like I fight with demons all the time, you know what I'm saying? And that's the only thing that keeps me afloat is by helping others.
It's awesome, man. So that incident occurred about 17 years ago.
Yeah, 17, 18 years ago.
So since then, you've turned a different leaf. You've been good.
Nah, not since then. After that, I had a couple run-ins with the law. After that, I got back with my kid's mom, try to work it out, thinking that, you know, I was here because I needed to work things for my family. I was just thinking all kinds of stuff. Like, man, I wasn't supposed to die because I was supposed to be with the family, or who knows, you know? Like the day I got shot, the following day was my daughter's 5th birthday, and I was willing to miss that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really care. So after my accident, I just hated everyone, bro. Me and my kid's mom got into a argument. I ended up sitting her on the couch and I put a gun in her mouth. You know, I really wanted to eliminate everybody that was not being cool. You know, it was just a weird time in my mind, bro. Like, I just felt like I didn't have nothing to live for. I felt like me surviving being shot 5 times wasn't luck. I felt like it was bad luck because I have to still be here in this bitch surviving, you know? Like that was my mentality. Like it wasn't, oh, George has a purpose here. Nah, it was like, damn, fool, you fucking, there you go. You know, you survived again. You're still in this bitch, you know what I mean? But, and I didn't care, bro. Like I just wanted to hurt people. And that was one of the things, you know, if it wasn't for my little brother being there and coming out and seeing it and crying, like I probably would have killed her, you know? And I ended up going to jail for that. Had like 2 felonies, criminal threats, terrorist threats, all kinds of shit, possession of a firearm. Got out on bail for that. And then like 2 months later, I ran over my mom's husband. So I was just on a rampage, dog. Like I didn't have no patience for nobody's anything. Like I just wanted people to know that they're gonna feel it. You know what I mean? And the situation with my mom's husband, he was the one that answered the phone call that day when I was on the floor. You know, and I think what really hurt me in that situation was that he took for granted the fact that I was disabled, and he tried to inflict harm on me. You know, I was vulnerable, and he took full advantage, you know, and so the only way I could repay that back is by showing him that I was ultimate, you know, and the way I did that is I ran his ass over.
How was he trying to inflict harm on you?
He tried to swing at me. you know. And at the time, I had a walker. My left arm was disabled. My whole left side was disabled. And if it wasn't for my little brother pushing him out the way, he would have socked me in the face, you know. And that right there was like the ultimate disrespect to me, you know. Growing up my whole life, I've always been a real believer in respect. That's all I had. All I had growing up was not money. All I had was respect and my word. That's the only thing I ever survived on. You know what I'm saying? And at this point, for this guy that has no relation to me, take advantage of that, like I couldn't let that ride. You know what I mean? And the cops ended up escorting me out the pad that day because we got in a big ass argument. And I caught him slipping. He was walking across the street to get cigarettes, and I ran his ass over. And then I still made a U-turn, put my car over his body, stumbled out the car, and I told him, like, you see what I mean? Like, I run this shit. You're lucky. I'll run you over right now. I'll kill you. And the whole time I just hear my mom and my sister and the neighbors, no, don't kill him. I was like thinking as I got back in the car and I reversed over him and I took off, I just remember thinking like, fuck, that probably wasn't the best thing I ever done, you know? So I ended up taking off. I hid out in San Bernardino for a month. A detective called me out of the blue. Hey, we got a report here that you ran over so-and-so. And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I said, that's crazy. I said, I know so-and-so. I said, he's got some issues. He's an alcoholic and he does pills and shit. So I don't know what he's talking about. And I said, and my mom, she's the same way. So I don't know what they're telling you guys over there, you know? And he was like, all right, you bet. It's like, if you happen to remember anything, don't hesitate to call Detective so-and-so, LAPD. I was like, all right. And so like a month went by. I was like, damn, I think they really believe me. I should be good. Couple days went by and I was sleeping. I had my daughter in bed. She was sleeping on my chest. You know, we were knocked out. And then it was almost like right now when I have my eyes closed and these lights are on, that's what I felt. And then I'd open my eyes like, who the fuck turned on the lights? And it was a SWAT team. And they're like, come out. And the good thing is they kept it quiet so I wouldn't wake up my daughter. They're telling me to be quiet. But when I came out, like the whole family was face down, in-laws face down. I was just like, fuck. And I really didn't believe what I was doing. They were like, we have a warrant for attempted murder. And I was like, what? You got the wrong dude. What the fuck? I never did that shit. And that just goes to show how sick I was, bro. Like, I didn't know what was going on, honestly. So there I go. On my way back from San Bernardino, on my way to Van Nuys with an attempted murder charge. And so this is where, at that point, I wasn't ready to be good. You know, I didn't really have any value for anything. It wasn't until I started fighting this case that I was looking at like 22 years. Because I already had a prior gun charge. I was a gang member, you know what I mean? Like I had everything against me. I was against the ropes fighting, you know? And it wasn't until I was in Supermax, probably like 9 months deep into fighting this case. My mom was hitting the stand. Her husband was hitting the stand. My sister wrote a statement, like 2 pages, saying how much of a danger I am. Like I don't have family. The only family I had was my mom, my sister, my brothers, you know? And for them to be like that, and my little brother, he was the only one that really had my back. He was too young to say anything. He was 14, 15. But I knew him. Like he would look at me in court, like give me that look, like, man, I love you. You know, like you're my idol type of shit, you know? And so I was in Supermax one time, bro, and I came back from court and I was in 729. That fucking place was rocking. One of my homeboys from my neighborhood was running that whole show right there, which meant I was one of the first ones to be up to bat to put in work. Like we were making our neighborhood look good right there, you know? And then I came back from court, and some black dude came up to me, and I was staying in a dorm. Some black dude came up to me as I'm walking in. He's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Hell nah." And he's like, "Hey man, come on, man." He's like, "I know you're hurt." He's like, "I know you're going through it right now, and you know you just lost your brother, and I know your kids miss you, and this and that." And I kind of was like, "What? Like, wait, how the fuck you know?" You know, like it was something was strange, you know. So then he's like, "Please, man." He's like, "I have a message for you." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, what's that?" He's like, I have a message from God." He's like, "I'm a prophet." He's like, "And I'm here to give you a message. And that message is that you need to realize you're here for a purpose, and you need to respect God because he's the one guiding you through this. And if you don't respect him, he'll pluck one of your kids from you to make you realize that he's in control." Mind you, my boy, we're standing in the middle of a dorm in Supermax, and he's telling me this. And maybe at the time I was on my way to go beat up somebody, I don't know, but I wasn't in the right mind, you know. But when he told me that, I was like, wait, what? Like, how the fuck you know all this shit? You know what I mean? Like, he was just letting me, like, just telling me all kinds about my kids, about my marital status. Like, in other words, he was telling me, like, you're not in this for yourself. Like, there's someone else that you're doing this for, type of shit, right? And so I ended up shaking him off. I think he might even did like a little prayer for me and shit. And then I went back to my bunk, and I told the homie, like, "Hey, did you see me talking to this black dude?" Because now I'm like, man, I fucked up by talking to this fool too long. Like, what the fuck I got coming now, you know? And my homie was like, "What do you mean, fool?" And I was like, "I was talking to a fucking black dude, fool, forever. Like, dang, anybody say anything?" He's like, "Nah, fool, like, what are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Fool, I was talking to that black fool right there." And when I pointed at his bunk, that shit was clear, bro. Like, he was never even there. 100% vacant, dog. I was like, what the fuck? At that point, bro, I broke down. I broke down, and I low-key started crying because I was like, that shit was heavy. I got on the phone. I had to call the kids because I was like, how did this guy know about my kids? Like, is he an informant? Like, I didn't know what was going on, bro. And I talked to the kids, and they were fine. So then I came back to the dorm, and I was just thinking, like, I think it's time to change. You know what I'm saying? I think I feel what my mission is, you know? And from that point on, bro, like, I think I did like another 8 months in that bitch, and then I finally came home, and it was just a different vibe. Like, I didn't feel no hate. I didn't feel nothing when I got out. My mom was still with her husband. I let that ride. Like, I didn't have no contact. But now I was dealing with homelessness because I couldn't get a job because so it went from attempted murder to assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily harm. And so I had a felony on my record. Not to mention the 2 felonies I had in Riverside for the terrorist threats and the criminal threats. So I couldn't get a job, dog. Like, I went to staffing agencies. They would let me work for like a day or two. My shit would come back, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, your position's done," you know? And it wasn't until I hit up some lady at a staffing agency. She was a Hispanic lady, and I was like, "Hey, I said, why is it all these fucking druggy ass fools are working at these spots, but I can't even get a job?" She's like, "Mijo, sit down. Let me tell you how it works right here." She's like, "You can't get a job because we have to be worried about you in case we fire you one day because you have violent crimes in your record." She's like, "We ain't worried about the druggie. All he's gonna do is not come to work." She's like, but you, it's different." And when she told me that, I was like, fuck, no wonder I can't get a job. Like, it made all the sense. And then after that, I went back to my I used to sleep a lot at the Hollenbeck Park in Covina because I was like a quiet park, you know? And I was thinking like, man, I need to get the fuck out of here. Like, this isn't me. I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not an idiot. I was going to school for phlebotomy, for medical assisting. Like, I'm not a dumb dude, you know? And I don't do drugs, and I'm not drunk. Like, all that free time that I had was all time that I was literally like planning the rest of my life. Like, and the first thing on that list was I had to get a job, you know? And so I got out a friend of mine that I used to work with, her husband's a sick ass lawyer in La Puente area. And I was like, hey, Gilbert Quinones, what's up, man? What can you do for me? And he's like, I could do that for you for like 3,000. I told him, well, that's the thing. I said, I'm homeless right now. Like, what's another option? And Gilbert was like, you know what? This is what you do, Jorge. You go to the court where you got busted at. You ask for an expungement packet. You fill out the packet. You get the fee waiver because you're homeless. And in that packet, it's going to give you the chance to explain to the judge why he should grant you expungement. Like, what good is it going to do? So in that packet, it gives you like maybe like a half a page to write, right? Man, my boy, I ended up writing like 8 pages to the judge, dog. I was pretty much like, look, man, I'm at your mercy. I ain't a piece of shit. I'm educated. I'm willing to work. It just so happens that I have a little mistake in my past that I'm dealing with now, and it's not letting me advance. And like, I don't know, like 2 months later, he sent me a letter back. And he was like, you know what? In my 40 years of being on the bar or whatever he said, I have never read a letter as sincere as yours. And he's like, and because I take it to heart, I'm going to expunge your record in all county, in LA County, Riverside, and San Bernardino, which San Bernardino I didn't have any, and Riverside I had something pending. So I was like, all right, best news ever, right? So then now I'm thinking I still have that shit in Riverside because I ended up bailing out. They ended up doing like a DA reject on it due to lack of evidence, right? So the Jura had the gun because they found it, but the Jura had the same gun as his backup weapon. So I don't know if he was like, did the old swippy swap, or I don't know what happened, but what I did know is that DA reject was sticking because there was no evidence. So sure enough, man, that shit dropped off. I ended up getting a job for Time Warner Cable. Did that for like a year. And then after that, I ended up getting a job with NASA. And then shit, here we are 9 years later.
And you also have a business now that you do.
Yeah.
You help people. You stated it earlier, Pushing Fruits, vendor, right?
Yeah. Pushing Fruits LA started as a street vending mission that I took on. I've always been one to cook and one to serve people. And so I figured like that was the easiest way that I can do that on my own, which was with fruit, because I would always stop at the fruteros, you know, on the corners. And yeah, that was my thing, you know. And another thing about me, that the reason I named Pushing Fruits what I named it is I used to be a drug trafficker, you know. I used to take drugs from here to Oklahoma.
You're pushing weight.
I was pushing weight, you know what I mean? Like 20, 30 kilos of coke from here to Oklahoma, just me by myself, listening to R&B. You know what I mean? And I did that for so many months and years that it was a matter of me getting caught. You know what I mean saying? Because it only lasts for so long. And so I always needed that cash flow in my life, you know, because I've always paid child support and, you know, all that overhead crap. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start pushing fruit. And that's why I named it Pushing Fruit to LA, because I was no longer pushing dope. So that right there is motivation for anybody to start their own business and make their own legit money. You know what I'm saying? And that's where it's been at. I think I've started it 4.5 years ago. This last summer was my 4th summer having my business, and it's evolving, man. It's evolving from just doing fruit down the street corner to being hired for city events, private events, corporate events, And now I'm expanding my menu not only from fruta but also with food, tacos, bacon wrap hot dogs, esquites, hibachi, whatever, you know, and that's my thing, man, cooking. So pretty soon my next goal is I'm gonna have a breakfast cafe. That's my next step. So we'll do the little fruta and the little private catering for now, but my ultimate goal is opening a fruit breakfast cafe.
Congratulations to you contributing to the community like that. You know,
Thank you.
It shows a lot of humanity. How do you feel about when all that was going on, when the street vendors were getting attacked and stuff? What's your take on that?
Man, you know what? That actually, during that time, you're speaking of like when COVID was hitting and the vendors were getting So I'm from the streets to the set right now. I don't do acting no more, but I do more of the casting, producing for the team. But Bernice, who is the main person behind From the Streets to the Set, she invited me to a community meeting in South Central LA because she knew that I was I was a street vendor, and she knew that maybe I had some input to give to the meeting, you know. And the meeting was strictly bringing people from the community together, gang leaders, whatever the case was, bringing them together to find the root cause of this violence. Like, where is it coming from, you know? And ultimately, it was coming from these youngsters that were wrongfully guided, you know, like they weren't guided in the right way. So they're doing this stupid stuff to gain, you know, notoriety on social media platforms, unfortunately, you know what I mean? So when we went to these meetings in South Central LA, it was a trip to me. Because not only was I sitting where there was gang leaders, Black, Hispanic, talking about where this is coming from and who should be brought, who this should be brought to their attention. You know what I mean? Like, in one case, one of the kids, I think, stole a señor's mask. He was selling masks in like the Long Beach area or something. And what ended up happening is the dad of the kid was supporting his actions. So they ended up bringing the dad forward, like, "Oh, you're supporting your kid's actions, or well, you're just as you're just equally as fault, you know." And that kind of opened my eyes to starting to do community work myself. Like, I saw how the community in South Central and LA and all those little areas, I saw how they were coming together and they were really trying to fix this issue before it became unfixable. You know what I'm saying? And you know, those meetings I felt had a major impact in the decrease of that happening, because people were seeing that the community was involved now. It wasn't just the media. It was like actual homies and, you know, leaders in those hoods that were on the lookout for dudes doing this to our people, you know? And so, and that planted the seed to now where it made me want to go to my neighborhood and do something positive, you know, and which led to the idea of doing the backpack drives. This last August 6th, I was my second annual and we doubled. So, you know, next August, I hope to triple. You know, the first year we did 250 backpacks and 30 free haircuts and 300 smash burgers. This time we did 500 backpacks, 60 free haircuts, and 100 pizzas, and free groceries and fruta, like all that stuff, man. And that's what gave me the drive to do stuff in my own neighborhood. Yeah.
A salute to you, man.
Thank you.
Bringing positivity back into the neighborhood.
I mean, at this point, I think I've been so blessed in my life, and I've been looked out for by my guardian angels and God, that I would be a fool not to pay it forward. You know, that just ain't my thing no more. You know, that negative shit ain't my thing. You know, I've had too many negative years to prolong that. Therefore, now I just try to help people as much as I can, and it helps me at the same time, you know?
What are your goals for the years to come?
My goals, My goal is to be a crisis intervention worker in my own neighborhood. By saying crisis intervention worker, I plan to bring services to my neighborhood to help those families who are victims of violent crimes. I think in the long run, I want to be the go-to person to provide support and help to my own homeboys' families, my own fallen homies' families. I really take that to heart, and I really feel like that's my calling. I feel like I've done a lot of stuff already, like acting and working for NASA and all this crazy stuff, that now it's time to do real stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to change all my focus from being in front of the camera to I just really want to help people. You know what I'm saying? And through that, it will also give me a chance to bring my own homies in front of the camera. Because I really feel like when I became from the street to the set and URA casting, like that was legitimately life-changing for me. It kind of gave me purpose. So I know if it did that for me, I know that there's a couple homies out there waiting to be on camera and to bring a little purpose to their life too, give them a little motivation to be better. So now that I'm doing the producing side of the casting for the team, it'll give me a chance to make that magic happen.
George, if you had a positive message to give to our youth today that are thinking about joining gangs or are on that path, what would it be?
I'm going to bypass the whole, what would I say about joining gangs, because we all know that ain't the best choice. You know what I'm saying? But I think what people don't realize is that choice runs a lot deeper than just making the choice of being a gang member or not. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these kids are brought up in that life. A lot of these youngsters, that's all they know. You know what I'm saying? So by saying, before you join a gang, that's not really my message. My message is, before you give up on yourself, just know that there's brighter days ahead. You know what I mean? Like I like to say, all bad times are temporary, because that's the truth of all truth. Any bad time that you ever been through or look back on and you really thought that you were never going to get through it, like here we are, we got through it. You know what I'm saying? And that's my message to the youngsters, because it doesn't get no more simple than that. All bad times are temporary. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, a lot of these kids, a lot of the things that they're willing to throw in the towel for are so meaningless. Like right now, the suicidal rate in 10-year-olds is at its all-time high. And I think that's crazy. And I think the only reason that's happening is because these kids nowadays, our kids, are trying to live up to a standard that social media has put in place. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, these youngsters, it could be as simple as them not getting as much followers as the next person, where they feel like it's the end of the world. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that's my message, bro. My whole motivation to be here, my whole message is just stay positive, and good things are coming for sure. And I'm living proof.
Well, George, thanks for coming down and sharing your story. It was very, very real.
Thank you, man.
And I think a lot of people are going to learn from your experiences.
Thank you, man. And you know what? That's what I'm living for. I'm really living for the reason to give people a message to not mess up like how I did and how a lot of us have. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot to do with these kids maybe giving up on themselves is because they don't have nobody to tell them that they're going to be better, and just like I didn't have nobody to tell me I was going to be better, and I think sometimes that's all someone needs, is just to tell them you're going to be all right, and sometimes that could get them from the point of maybe never coming back again. So if I could do that, if I could just save one kid out there by my story and just by keeping it real and transparent, then my job's done, you know. So I hope in the near future that I'm able to reach more kids and I'm able to save more lives, and I think that's happening already. I just did an interview for Unfiltered Stories on Facebook, and it's got like 1.3 million views within like 6 days. And all those comments are just nothing but love, and I love that. You know, my own homeboys show me love. I get text messages by my homeboys like, "Damn, Pedro, we might have thought you were bullshitting in the beginning, but we see what you're doing. Like, thank you. That's feedback." And just to hear that from my own neighborhood, and for people that maybe didn't really look at me as in the positive aspect, you know what I'm saying? For that to change, it's pretty awarding. And that's what I'm here for, man. I'm just here to keep it real and to support our youth and to get them through those trying times, you know?
Well, George, thanks again, man. Appreciate you being here. Wish you nothing but the best of luck on your business.
Thank you.
And I wish it goes far. I hope that you become big.
Thank you,
in doing that, and because you're on the right path, and you're doing very well.
I appreciate that.
And you have a positive message, and I think that goes far, man. And I think a lot of people are gonna tune into that and learn from that.
That's it, man. That's, you know, you live and you learn, you know, and sometimes now our path is to teach, you know, and that's what I'm here. My path is to teach, and that's what I'm gonna do, and I ain't gonna stop. It's all motivation and positivity, big dog.